Welcome to Xylo Crime Lab, your home for powerful true crime investigations, cold cases, forensic analysis, and real stories that matter.
Aariah Henry was shot around 2 a.m. while driving in reserve.
The engine of the small sedan was still running, its headlights cutting a weak beam across the empty Louisiana road. Inside, there was nothing but screaming and the sound of heavy, panicked breathing. Just moments before, 16-year-old Aariah Henry had been laughing. She was driving her two best friends, Mia and Chloe, home from a late-night party. A party she was never supposed to be at. Her parents believed she was fast asleep, safely tucked into her own bed. Instead, Aariah was here, miles from home, with a horrifying, searing pain in her side. A single gunshot, that's all it took. The attack was brutally fast. A dark vehicle had suddenly pulled up alongside them on the lonely, two-lane highway. If you're passionate about uncovering the truth, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss our latest cases. Right here on Xylo Crime Lab. The windows of that other car went down, not in a friendly wave, but to unleash a burst of violence that shattered the stillness of the early Sunday morning. In seconds, one shot was fired, and the other car was gone, leaving Aariah's vehicle swerving before it slammed to a stop on the shoulder. Aariah, the vibrant, funny girl with a future full of plans, was bleeding fast. Mia and Chloe didn't need a medical degree to know this was bad. Their frantic hands pressed against the wound, but the blood kept coming. Their minds were racing, overloaded not just with fear for their friend, but with a paralyzing, awful knowledge. They knew who had done this. They had seen the person's face. They knew exactly who pulled the trigger. When the police arrived, the scene was chaos. Aariah was rushed to the hospital, but it was already too late. A single bullet wound to the hip, tragically hitting a major artery, ended her life. The car she was driving was riddled with evidence, and the surveillance cameras nearby had captured the entire, terrifying moment. Aariah's sedan under fire, the dark shape of the shooter's car speeding away. Sheriff Mike Tregra of St. John Parish was quick to state that this was not a random act of violence. This was a targeted killing. Someone had followed Aariah. Someone wanted her dead. But the most frustrating, agonizing conflict in this entire case started right there on the shoulder of the road. When detectives turned to the two witnesses, the only people who could bring justice to Aariah, they hit a wall of absolute terrifying silence. Mia and Chloe, though hysterical and heartbroken over the loss of their friend, refused to speak. They refused to name the shooter, not because they didn't know the name, but because they were too afraid to say it out loud. They knew what revealing that name would mean for their own lives. A 16-year-old girl is gone. Her killer is known to at least 3 people. Yet, the person who fired the weapon is still walking free. The question is, how much fear does it take for a friend to protect a killer over the memory of the girl they loved? Before we dig into the layers of secrets, tell me in the comments below. If you were one of those friends, terrified for your own safety, would you immediately name the shooter, or would the fear keep you silent? I'm genuinely curious what you think is the right call here. Also, let me know what state or country you're watching from. To truly understand the tragedy of that Sunday morning, we have to look past the crime scene and focus on the life that was violently taken. The life of Aariah Henry. Aariah was more than just a 16-year-old victim of a drive-by shooting. She was a girl full of potential and the kind of vibrant energy that drew people to her. She grew up in St. John Parish, Louisiana, a place that holds a mix of small-town comfort and big-city proximity. For a teenager, this meant a tight-knit community where everyone knew your business, but also a growing restlessness to experience the wider world. If you're watching Xylo Crime Lab, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to share this video with your friends or family who love true crime stories, so they don't miss any of our investigations. Aariah was the beloved middle child of Dana and Robert Henry. Her home life was built on love, hard work, and strict boundaries. Boundaries that, like any typical teen, Aariah often felt chafed against. Her mother, Dana, worked long hours as a nursing assistant. Dana was the anchor of the family, the one Aariah would go to with her everyday dramas, crushes, and minor worries. Dana was also the enforcer of the family rules, especially the curfew. She knew the dangers lurking outside of their home, and that fear fueled her protectiveness. This made their relationship complicated. Aariah loved her mother deeply, but she also saw her as an obstacle to her own freedom. Her father, Robert, worked at the local refinery. He was a quieter man, incredibly proud of his daughter's achievements in school. He instilled in her the idea that with hard work, she could achieve anything. He saw Aariah as the one who would break boundaries and go places they never could. The idea that Aariah might secretly defy their rules was something that, in his mind, simply didn't fit with the smart, focused young woman he thought he had raised. This makes the circumstances of her death, sneaking out, a source of double tragedy for him. The loss of his daughter and the loss of the faith he had in her following their safety instructions. Aariah also had a younger brother, Michael, who was 12 and thought his sister was the coolest person on earth, and an older sister, Chloe, not the friend, who was away at college. Aariah looked up to Chloe. Seeing her as the symbol of the independence and college life she was desperate to start. This desire to be grown up, to experience life on her own terms, played a key part in the events of that night. Aariah attended West St. John High School, where she was known as much for her role on the school's dance team as she was for her infectious, loud laugh that could fill any hallway. She was popular, active on social media, and immersed in the things that matter to a 16-year-old. Music, fashion, and friendships. She dreamed of going to college in a big city like Atlanta to study digital media, and she saw the next 2 years as her transition period, a time to test the waters and push the boundaries of her sheltered life. The engine that drove her social life was her tight-knit group of friends, particularly Mia and Chloe, the friend, not the sister. These two girls were in Aariah's car during the shooting and are now the three silent witnesses at the center of this case. Mia was often the cautious voice, the one who worried about getting caught. Chloe was the more daring one, constantly encouraging Aariah to loosen up and seek excitement. It was this influence, the pull toward excitement and away from parental restrictions, that ultimately led to the fatal decision. Aariah's relationships were typical of her age. Fleeting, fun, and occasionally dramatic. But a few months before her death, she had been involved in a brief, intense relationship with an older teen named Damon. Damon was 17 or 18, well known in the local street scene, and had a reputation that made many parents, including Aariah's, nervous. The relationship ended because Damon was possessive and controlling. He didn't like Aariah having other friends and grew jealous whenever she paid attention to her other interests, like her photography club. Aariah, sensing the relationship was turning unhealthy and potentially dangerous, had broken it off firmly. However, Damon didn't take the breakup well. He continued to send her messages, sometimes pleading, sometimes angry, and occasionally threatening. He still moved in the same social circles, and Aariah was often looking over her shoulder. This past conflict is vital because it establishes a clear, potential motive for the targeted killing. When police later began to piece together Aariah's last night, Damon's name would be one of the first to come up, a dark shadow cast over her life that may have led directly to her death. This whole setup, the loving but rule-bound parents, the restless teen, the supportive friends, and the dramatic, dangerous ex-boyfriend, created a perfect tension cooker. Aariah was seeking freedom. She wanted to be grown up and independent. That drive, coupled with a simple, desperate need to be at the most important party of the weekend, caused her to make a choice that would cost her everything. She made the choice to put on a show of obedience to her parents while simultaneously defying them, believing she could handle any risk that came her way. She couldn't have known that the consequence of sneaking out wouldn't just be grounded for a week, but a tragedy that would shatter her family and expose a brutal code of silence in her community. We've established the background. Aariah and her ex-boyfriend, Damon, had a dramatic and difficult breakup. Based on what you know now, what do you think happened at the party? Do you think Damon was directly involved? Or do you think his presence was just the spark that set off a different chain of events? Let me know your theory in the comments. Your insights might help us uncover the real tragedy here. The fuse for this tragedy was lit on the night of the party. The decisions made in the 2 hours after she slipped out of her window set the stage for the attack, and for the silence that followed. Thank you for watching this true crime story on Xylo Crime Lab. We hope you, and your loved ones, stay safe and out of harm's way. Take care of yourselves and your family, and we'll see you in the next investigation.